Greetings and salutations, everyone. I'm back for another review, another 80s retro review with just one of the guys from 1985. This film is starring Joyce Heiser as Terry, Billy Jane, not Billy Zane, Billy Jane, as her younger brother Buddy, and Clayton Rohner as Rick, who is also in one of my retro reviews for Modern Girls, which I will link to in the description. So, this film is about a young gal in high school who feels she is not being taken seriously when she enters this writing competition, like this journalism contest, which would open up some doors for her to have this summer internship if she was to win. She feels she wasn't really treated fairly, so while her parents are out of town for a few weeks, she decides to chop off all of her hair, try to dress as stereotypical guy as she can, and then just turn in the paper at a different school entirely. Because she really feels that if a guy had turned in the paper, they would have been given more of a chance than her, and she would have gotten that internship. So there are two people with her on this journey. One is her best friend, who's kind of questioning what she's doing, but still overall being supportive, and her little brother, who is a bit of a sex crazed 15-year-old, otherwise known as a 15-year-old, I guess. But yeah, so he helps her kind of embody more of what it is to be a guy. How to walk, how to talk, how to dress, and so on. Now, this is from his point of view, of course, so needless to say, he provides even more comic relief in this comedy because this is all from the mind of that, said sex-crazed 15-year-old. So, most of this movie moves along the lines of her trying to fit in and act like a guy at this other school. Along with that is her goal of needing to now rewrite her paper to kind of make a new story about what it's like to go undercover as a teenage boy in this school. Now, while there are some dated and cheesy scenes, as another aspects to this, which is to be expected from a lot of 80s movies, there's still a lot going on which is worth checking out, such as the fact that while she is at this school alone as like the new kid, um, she does end up connecting with some people, like character Rick, played by Clayton Rohner. So she really connects with him because he's somebody who has had to switch schools a lot, so he's used to coming to a new school, not fitting in, trying to make friends, and sometimes, failing during it. But unfortunately, she's also kind of connecting in a bad way with some of the more popular kids. Now, while some of the popular girls are actually getting interested in her, it's really hard to keep the gender straight here. While some of the popular girls are getting interested in her as the guy because she's different from other guys, there are also some popular guys there who are giving her a hard time. And it's the 80s. So, of course, it's William Zabka. Yeah, William Zabka from Karate Kid and that one with the diving back to school, Rodney Dangerfield. I believe he was kind of the bully in that as well. And, I'm sure he's a great guy. The interviews have been great. He's very talented. Seriously, check out Cobra Kai if you haven't seen it. Watch all the other Karate Kid movies first and then check that out. But he just plays such a good bad guy, which in the few cases that I've met celebrities, that usually seems to be like, if they're a really good bad guy, they're probably the nicest person in person. Anyways, I kind of went off there. So throughout this film, her relationship with character Rick is developing, and it adds some bumps throughout her little journey here because so she's been shrugging off her actual boyfriend, who is a bit of a jerk and doesn't really seem to appreciate her and kind of talks down to her some. But while she's kind of not paying attention to him, she's getting to know Rick better, and while they do gel as friends, he really would be the better match for her in general. But of course, he thinks that she's a guy. Anyways, ultimately, one of the reasons why I like to do these retro reviews and see these, watch these movies again that either I haven't seen in years or haven't seen since I was a kid and they were on cable 24 hours a day, or even if it's something that I just never got around to seeing, like, one of my previous reviews on Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 that I only finally got around to seeing a few weeks ago. Be another link in the description for that. But I like to watch these older ones again, pay closer attention, and try to see what kind of movie it is without the fog of nostalgia. Well, for this film, it still works. Without that nostalgia, you can still really enjoy this. The premise holds up. It's still really funny. The acting is, well, okay, the acting's not very good, but the material wasn't all that great. It was just good enough to get by to tell that story of what they're trying to do is just entertain us with this comedy. But also, like a lot of 80s movies liked to do, this one put in some sexuality and gender identification scenarios as a joke here and there, which is fine. it's a different time. I understand that. And I'm usually fine with just moving past it, knowing that times have changed anyways. And luckily with this one, while it does have some of that, outside of that, it does okay. There's really just one line that her brother throws out there about transvestites that's a little bit cold, even though he's meant to be joking. And there's some homophobia in here, but it's more along the lines of somebody not wanting to be seen as homosexual or friends with one versus an outright hatred. So, this outside of those two things, I mean, it's a pretty tame viewing. I was expecting to see some much more cringe-worthy stuff in it. Anyways, I'm still rambling here. So let me just summarize a few things. So yes, worth checking out. Fun premise, comedy still works. It's all good. It's nice and short. It's only an hour and 40 minutes. They don't pad this too much. They don't try to make it go on too long. We have a very satisfying building of what's happening within the story and even what's happening with some of the characters. They do go through some things and change throughout this. Even her younger brother starts to mature a little bit, as the story progresses. However, as I said, the acting is a bit rough in some scenes. I think that's more about the material. And honestly, just like when I've mentioned movies that I think just needed a re-edit, some of those, it just seems like they used the wrong take. Because I've seen some of these actors, like Clayton Rohner, do much better in other work anyways. But, the other thing, soundtrack isn't good. There's not as much like cool or interesting 80s music. It's some really cheesy background stuff. But I'd say my biggest complaint is that there's not enough Zabka in this. He makes a good bully. He does a great job at it, but he didn't really have a chance to shine in this as much as I felt that he should. I think that there's maybe disconnect between his character and his girlfriend in it, and how all that's associating with this character of Terry being the new guy at school. They could have done more with that. Honestly, I think this would be one that's ripe for a reboot or a reimagining or just remake it in some way. They could even play with gender and those stereotypes and identification and sexual orientation a lot more, and it'd be very relevant because there's been a lot of changes over the years. Anyways, that's about all I got to say about it. I think it's worth checking out. If I had to assign a grade to it, I'd give it about a C+, just above the mid-range maybe. Fun retro film to check out. So there you go. That'll do it for this little review, and I hope you enjoyed. I have tons of others planned along these lines. I'm just kind of getting around to them. It's a whole watch, write, film, edit, post thing that tends to take a lot of time. But, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon to get a notification for when I do upload something. Be sure to, like the video if you like it and share it, because that really does help the channel out a lot. The more people I know are actually coming here to watch these videos and like what I'm doing, the more of them that I'll make. But anyways, that's about all I have for now. So thanks for tuning in, and see you in the next one.